Welcome to CAN, Caribbean Affiliate News. My name is Stefan Samuel. Here are the stories that we are following today, August 13th, 2013. In international news, the first woman to take command of the U.S. Air Force Academy. U.S. mobster Y.T. Bulger, now 83 years old, guilty of racketeering involvement in murders. Russian opposition leader faces accusation of foreign funding. And a large sinkhole causes partial collapse of a Florida resort. Details on these headlines and more when we return.
Excuse me, if you see me smiling, that's 'cause I'm chilling on Total Caribbean Network. This your boy Wyclef John, man, and I'm chillin', man. Total Caribbean Network. Man, I love their style. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Welcome back to CAN, Caribbean Affiliate News. My name is Stefan Samuel. This segment of the news is sponsored by Total Caribbean Network. In international news, the first woman to lead the U.S. Air Force Academy formally took command on Monday, ushering a new era for the 59-year-old military school in Colorado. Lieutenant General Michelle Johnson, welcomed with a change of command ceremony, told a crowd of hundreds of cadets, staff, service leaders, and supporters that she looked forward to the challenge of leading the academy through both its triumphs and its challenges. We can find meaning in adversity, and there are lessons from overcoming negative experiences and grow stronger through them, she said. Johnson takes over for Lieutenant General Mike Gold, a 1976 graduate who was superintendent for 4 years and who is set to retire in October. Johnson is the Academy's 19th superintendent. The arrival of a female chief signals a change for a school that has seen its share of sexual scandals, most recently the dismissal of Cadet Jamil Cooks after his April conviction on a charge of abusive sexual conduct after he pleaded guilty to the unlawful entry into the rooms of 2 female cadets. In 2003, reports that dozens of female Academy cadets had been sexually assaulted by fellow cadets in incidents covering a decade, but that Academy officials ignored or downplayed their complaints, led by congregational hearings. Johnson, a 1981 Academy graduate, was the Academy's first female cadet wing commander. She comes to the Academy after serving as the Deputy Chief of Staff of Operations and Intelligence at the Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Johnson attended Oxford University as a Rhodes Scholar and earned a master's degree in politics and economics. In Boston, 2 years ago, James Y.T. Bulger, a famed and much feared head of the Boston mob, was sitting pretty in Santa Monica, California. Today, he is sitting in prison where he could potentially spend the rest of his life. The turn of events was capped Monday when a federal jury found the former mob boss guilty on 31 of 32 counts, including extortion, money laundering, drug dealing, and weapons possession. The jury held Bulger responsible for the murder of 11 people. The 83-year-old Bulger faces a maximum sentence up to life plus 30 years in prison. So many people's lives were terribly harmed by the criminal actions of Bulger and his crew, and today's conviction does not alter that harm, and it doesn't lessen it, said U.S. Attorney Carmen Ortiz, speaking about the victims and their families. However, we hope that they find some degree of comfort in the fact that today has come and Bulger is being held accountable for his horrific crimes, she said. Bulger was accused of involvement in killing 19 people, including 2 women. The jury found Bulger played a role in 11 of those murders and that the evidence did not prove he was involved in 7, stretching back to 1973. The jury made no findings in one murder. Pat Donahue, widow of victim Michael Donahue, cried openly when the verdict was announced. Victim Eddie Connors' daughter, Karen, clenched her fists and said yes when her father's death by Bulger was proved. But the daughter of the victim, Frances Buddy Leonard, left court after the jury did not find enough evidence to link Bulger to his death. 38 years ago, when my father died, we always knew who killed him. We still know who killed him, and we still can't get any justice, said Connie Leonard, now grown. And victim Deborah Davis's brother, Stephen Davis, left in disbelief after the jury had no finding in her death. Deborah Davis was dating Bulger's partner, Steve Flemmy, and one day in 1981 just didn't come home. It's hard to digest with all the years since 81. I've been looking for answers, searching for answers, and I come out with nothing. It's not good enough, Stephen Davis told CNN. The 8 men and 4 women of the jury deliberated for 5 days, over more than 32 hours before reaching their verdict. The only count Bulger was not found guilty on was of the alleged extortion of Kevin Hayes, a ticket broker, who had said he was warned in 1994 that he had to give payoffs to Bulger in order to operate. Bulger showed no emotions as the verdict were read. They came after 7 weeks of testimony about murder, extortion, drug trafficking, loan sharking, bookmaking, and other gangster crimes covering the time Bulger ran Boston's Irish mob from the early 70s through the late 1994 when he fled the city. In Moscow, Russian prosecutors accused opposition leader Alexei Navalny on Monday of allegedly receiving foreign funding for his campaign to oust an ally of President Vladimir Putin as Moscow mayor in an election next month. Navalny, who is 37, said the allegations were an attempt to discredit him and showed the Kremlin was worried that his door-to-door campaigning style was reducing acting Moscow leader Sergei's big lead in opinion polls. And I quote, "Our campaign is the most transparent in terms of financing Navalny, who could face criminal charges if the allegations were confirmed," said on his website, dismissing the state prosecutors as dullards. The elections pits the man who emerged as the opposition's informal leader in protests last year against an experienced politician who was appointed by the Kremlin as Moscow mayor in October 2010 and has been touted as a potential prime minister. Navalny, who has a 5-year jail sentence hanging over him after being found guilty of what he said were trumped-off theft charges, has often been accused by Kremlin allies of being a Western stooge, a charge he denies. He has been able to run for mayor on September 8th only because he was unexpectedly freed on bail the day after his sentencing last month on charges of stealing from a state timber firm while he was advising in the remote city of Kharkov in 2009. The unusual decision to free him on bail was widely seen as being backed by the Kremlin so that he could contest and lose the election to Sobyanin, discrediting the opposition and reducing his appeal before he starts his jail term. The funding allegations were made by the nationalist Vladimir Zavonsky, leader of the Liberal Democratic Party, which often backs Putin's policies. A heavy defeat on September 8th would be a blow to the opposition, as Navalny is its most powerful public speaker. His campaigning in a casual t-shirt is a contrast to Sobyanin's more formal and choreographed public appearances, usually in a suit and tie. Even if Navalny does not win, a strong performance could lift the opposition's morale, sapped by the failure of protests in the late 2011 and 2012 to stop Putin's return to the presidency after 4 years as prime minister. Since that return, Russia's parliament has adopted a series of laws seen by critics as designed to crack down on opponents. A sinkhole estimated to be 40 to 50 feet in diameter caused a section of a Central Florida resort villa to partially collapse early Monday, while another section of the villa was sinking, authorities say. Residents of the Summer Bay Resort in Clermont, about 10 miles west of Disney World, called 911 shortly before midnight Sunday to report loud creaking noises and breaking windows, according to myfoxorlando.com. At around 3 a.m. on Monday, about 30% of three-story structure collapsed, Lake County Fire Rescue Battalion Chief Tony Queller told the Associated Press. The development's president, Paul Caldwell, said the resort underwent geological testing when it was built about 15 years ago, showing the ground to be stable and that there were no signs before Sunday that a sinkhole was developing. He said all affected guests had been given other rooms. Caldwell said a window popped out of one of the rooms about 10:30 p.m. on Sunday. A woman ran outside and flagged down a security guard who notified management. Another window then popped, and then a decision was made to immediately evacuate the building. The process took 10 to 15 minutes. The section of the building sank into the ground over the next 5 hours, said Amy Jadell, a resort guest who was staying with her fiancé, Darren Gade, in a building about 100 yards away. Residents who had been inside the building described hearing what sounded like thunder and then the sound of water as if it was a thunderstorm. The first portions to sink were the walkways and the elevator shaft. You could see the ground falling away from the building where the building started leaning, Gates said. People were in shock to see a structure of that size just sink into the ground that slowly. You could see the stress fractures up the side of the structure getting wider. Authorities think that the sinkhole is getting deeper, but couldn't tell early Monday if it was growing outward. County inspectors were expected to assess the damage throughout the day. The villa houses 24 units and about 20 people were staying in it at the time. All of the residents have been accounted for. 48 three-story units are at a total loss. You are watching Caribbean Affiliate News. We will be right back.